Councillors and members of the gallery, please note that we're about to commence recording this meeting. Your video and audio will be recorded and live streamed from now onwards, and the video will be available on the YouTube after the meeting has. I'll read the civic affirmation. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. Acknowledgement of the country. The Kurong District Council members acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of land and waters, the Narrandjeri people whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship. Pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nations people. Thank you. Apologies. I have one apology, of course, that is the Mayor, unfortunately, has gone down COVID, and talking in this morning, he couldn't talk very well at all. You wouldn't be able to understand him. So, Paul, the Mayor Paul is away. Right, the second part of the motion is confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting held on the 15th of March. Would someone like to move that way? Van, second. Country. Does anybody got any? Oh, sorry. You move them all together? Or? Okay, sorry. There's three. There's also the special.
3 minutes. 3 lots of minutes.
Three separate. Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion about the ordinary minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. The confirmation of the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 29th of March. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Yench, seconded Councillor Roundtree. Yes, Councillor Kwong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a query on this actual motion. It doesn't quite make sense to me, and I'll read it out to the members. It says, move council against second Councillor Roundtree that council approve the expenditure as outlined below for Heinrich Road and Potalic Road and endorse the following special local roads program SLURP funding applications. Now, it has written there in the recommendation Potalic Road with showing council's sealed roads renewal budget, and also for Heinrich Road the same. But when it says here following special local roads, well, wouldn't that be written in the recommendation and not, I know it's in the report, it just sort of seems a bit empty.
Just ask the Director.
Through
you, Mayor. Councillor, are you saying it's not in the spirit of the report, or it's changed to what the council's approved?
No, just the way I read this, and well, just showed to my fellow members, it's in the report as on the agenda, but the actual recommendation which come the motion doesn't define. It says, because I can't understand, and endorse the following special local roads program. What local roads program?
So through you, Mayor, the Special Local Roads Program is the one that the MOLGA and we're part of, and this is to endorse that pipeline of work through that process over the coming years. Up until now, we do it year by year, but this is, because these two roads are big projects, this is to endorse that pipeline of work into that.
Well, it says following. Following what?
Can I try and help Councillor Coleman here? I think it's just the wording. It doesn't indicate where the SLURP funding is. It just says numbers in financial years against renewal budget, doesn't indicate what proportion of that money or what extra money might be SLURP money. I think it's just because it says it in the wording but doesn't identify it in the dot points underneath, it didn't quite make sense. So it just needs to be what the SLURP funding is for those financial years as well.
So through you, Mayor, sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
If we just remove the word following, will that make sense?
Yeah, the followings, I think, is the awkward word.
It looks like you should be able to see the SLURP funding in there as well, and we're only seeing the budget in the budget figures, not the SLURP funding, or if it's included, it's not clear.
No, the SLURP funding is something you have to apply for all the time through the MRLGA.
Yeah, that's right.
Special roads. Now, what we've done here, because it's we'll say Heinrich Road's an $8 million project, we have budgeted, or we've estimated that we'll use year 1, year 2, year 3.
Of our budget.
That is our portion, and the rest will be SLURP funding.
Yeah.
It's just the following is this uncomfortable word.
Okay. It was really to just say that these are the things that will go into the SLURP program, but following can come out and it doesn't change the intent of the motion.
Thank you.
Everyone's in favour of that? Okay, I'll move that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Next is the minutes of the special meeting held on the 12th of April 2022. Would someone like to move that way? Move Councillor Coleman, seconded Councillor Roundtree. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. We have no adjourned business. The next is the minute action list. There are any council members, any questions regarding the minute action list? If not, if we have no requests there, we'll go on to the next item, which is questions with notice. One, sort of answered the question from the ratepayers. Thank you for the answer to that. The second one is also mine, and I'm quite happy with the answer there. The third one is Councillor Coleman. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr Chair. And thank you to Matt for the comprehensive report, and makes me feel more comfortable because that appears to me that it's an independent source, and it's crucial that we get this road right, and we don't want a short time frame like the road before it, and we want some, 40 years or more out of that, hopefully. And I would like to have that information, please. I know it's complicated, but if I could have a copy of the compaction reports, if that's possible. I know it's technical, but I like to learn a few things about road construction. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, the compaction testing that's undertaken on the road is only part of the testing procedure as well. There's other things like proof rolls, which are undertaken by staff, and they need to be read in context because the compaction test is only taken at a point on the road per square metre. So it's only a specific point, where there's other methods of testing the integrity of the road once it's constructed before sealing to determine its strength and capability of taking the loading from the traffic.
Okay.
Mr Mayor,
Yes,
if I
Councillor.
might, through you, then might I suggest then, I don't particularly want a copy of the report. I'm not sure that I could read it, but perhaps a short workshop at some point in time would be suitable when we find a spare moment.
That would be more logical.
Matt, would you like to answer that?
Happy to provide a workshop through your chair on the construction progress of Poltalic Road at any time.
So with all due respect, I'm not worried about whether it's Poltalic Road, but if it's a learning exercise about understanding the process. Thank you.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr Chair. And thank you, Councillor Bland. That's the part I meant to put in there in my statement, that we consider having a workshop, because it's something we all should become aware of, maintaining our assets, and it is very important to have a greater knowledge of road construction, whether it be sealed or unsealed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roundtree, the next one was yours.
Thank you. I don't really think it's adequate that councillors have to seek specific documents from the CEO. I think the ability to view documents was previously available to elected members, and I think we've been clear on a number of occasions that we want the ability to still see this area. I think for it not to be included in the transition to squiz, whether that was an oversight or whether that's just something that hasn't happened yet. I gather it's just something that hasn't happened yet. I will probably move a motion later that we set a date for this to happen, because I think it's been a couple of years now. And it's something to get on to.
That's through you, Chair. I agree, and look, I'd be more than happy not to have to look for things on your behalf. A motion such as the one you're suggesting, I would have to suggest that it's taken on notice, because I would have to come back to you with a budget of what that would entail if we were to bring forward that work.
Yeah, could I just, the biggest problem here was we changed our server to the Local Government Association, wasn't it? And they haven't been able to get up to scratch.
So there's a couple of parts to that, Chair. One is that Squiz is software that supports our internet now, and most of the things came over, but historical information didn't come over. The historical information requires somebody to physically upload it. And although it's not a technically difficult job, it is a time-consuming one.
Through you, Chair, is there any way then, if this is a thing of local government, that we can't get some funding from local government or staff to help us to get us back up to speed where we were?
So we are, staff are having some training with local government. We've been talking with them, so they will be trained to do that. And as I said, it's not about the degree of difficulty, it's staff are being trained, and then it's about the resources that you apply to it, and where they would sit in the priority. And I suppose the short answer is no, LGA wouldn't pay for that.
Okay, that's questions without notice. Have we got any questions without notice? Councillor Hill.
Through you to the CEO, noticed on the way up here from Meningie, there are a large number of election signs that are in illegal places, including the centre median strip and attached to Department of Infrastructure signs, and I think to some council signs as well. So would the CEO be able to perhaps contact the appropriate body and advise them of this? Because it's mainly the minor parties. They probably weren't quick enough off the mark, because I've been through this myself. And there are, lack of some areas to put your signs, but you cannot put them in the locations or at the
We're more than happy to write to DIT or the relevant authority about those signs. And if the council has any compliance activity around that as well, we'll let you know.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Through the Chair to the Director of Infrastructure and Roads. Peak water quality, issues with the iron bacteria, staining and clogging of filters. Could Matt report to where we are up with that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, works were completed last week to implement a dosing scheme that enables us to treat the water at peak. It's an ongoing process. Ongoing monitoring will occur, but it's to do with a bacteria that's in the water that coagulates iron particles, which creates a red staining. So that's now able to be dosed at any time and will continually be monitored for quality.
Councillor Coleman.
Another question, if I may, Mr Chair, and through the Chair again to the Director of Infrastructure and Roads. The arborist, I believe, is down south around Tintinara area. Will this arborist be returning to do some work around East Wellington and Tarlin Bend, please?
Through the Chair, yes, he will.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Chair, to the CEO. Can the CEO advise if she's made contact with Terry Connolly regarding a presentation to councillors and an update on project stages from the Tarlin Bend Sporting Hub Steering Committee?
We have contacted with the chair of that committee. Mr Connolly is not the chair of that committee, so we generally work with the committee. A note went to him last week expressing the council's desire to have a workshop. We haven't heard from him yet, but we are pursuing him, and Terry Connolly is part of that group who works within that planning, that oversight committee that Kelly's been working with now for the last couple of months. So we tend to direct all of our correspondence to the chair of the hub committee. But generally, 9 times out of 10, all of the committee members are part of that email chain.
Okay.
Through you, Chair. Mr Connolly has no formal role in the hub. He's part of the committee and he is also in the Football Association, but as part of the hub, he is only one of several working members, and so we work through the chair.
Right, any further questions without notice? Okay, we go on to the next item, which is the Mayor's report. Well, we can't ask him any questions on that because he's not here. Second one is my report. If anyone's got any questions regarding that. On. Next one is Councillor Qualman's report. Anybody got any questions for Councillor Qualman or any comments you'd like to make, Councillor Qualman, on your report?
Oh, probably, if I may, Mr. Chair, on the 23rd of March, I was privileged to attend the unveiling of a memorial bench here for the famous Tailem Bendite, Mr. Ray Bolt, and due to COVID, he never had a funeral, and which we could have attended, and it was great to have our little gathering. The Mayor was there also, and Kelly Gench, and then Bolt family, and it was great to honour a great man. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item is motions with notice, which was moved by me, and comments by the CEO and obviously the Director of Infrastructure and Assets. I still believe that is something we should be having a good look at. So, and I can't move a motion. So. Yeah. If someone else would like to move the motion, that would be fine.
I'll move it for you.
Councillor Roundtree?
Yep.
Someone second the motion? Councillor Qualman? Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion?
I'll speak for the motion. I think what you've asked for is reasonable. It wouldn't hurt to have another look. So, yeah, I don't see anything wrong, and the information provided in the background and the CEO's comment all makes sense. Yeah, I support the motion.
But I'll just make a comment on why it's come about. Some time ago, we moved a motion that we look at how the waste is delivered to the waste transfer station, where we were going to split the loads up. If they come in with a split load, it was recyclables. The dump operator had the opportunity to reduce it. Now, at the present moment, the key thing, one of the key things for the local government is going to be waste management, and it's going to get worse and worse. So anything that we can do to take waste out of going to land, recyclable stuff out of going to land, it's worthwhile. Also, the other thing is to look at is the system of the dump vouchers. People I'm talking to about them are saying they're no longer relevant in a way. You know, they still pay for them, but they would rather pay for as they use. So if they bring a trailer load in, they pay the $60 or whatever. So just something, seeing we're doing a review of our pickup, let's do a review of our waste transfer stations and get a true figure of what they actually cost us. The last costing for the waste transfer station that I received from council, you know, depreciation on the 4 sites was nearly $120,000. Now that would value them at about $10 million, I reckon. So it just needs a general look at of the CEO.
And we can bring back a report on that, or a workshop even maybe. One of the things that, as we move to the new contract, I think that it's important that we also have an education campaign around recycle, reuse, and that type of theme, and then we would introduce different changes. But I think the education campaign is the first important part, because if you can't bring the community along with you, any changes we make to how we dispose of our rubbish or how people bring it to the tips, it won't work. So, an education campaign, I think, is very important.
Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair, you're absolutely right. This is going to be an ongoing problem. It ain't going to get better. It's going to get worse, if anything. And this is much needed. We've done a reduction in attendance hours at our transfer stations. And I thought we were going to have some figures of recordings of attendance, so how many people were using the facilities. Did we record that? Because that would be handy to have in our workshop. I don't recall seeing any statistics.
It's in the info doc every month, Councillor.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. I didn't look carefully enough.
Okay. Anyone any further comment? Councillor Lang?
Is there a perceived problem with mixed loads? My experience, personal experience, when I've gone with a mixed load of recycle and waste, I've actually separated it, so I am only charged for the waste as opposed to the whole. I've never used Tinty, so I've always had good dealings at doing it in that way. Is there something we need to look at, or is it just someone rocks up with a trailer loaded up with rubbish with no separation?
I could answer that is because they pay, they're not going to separate. And if you remember back, you were the actual person who moved that motion, that we tried that trial of splitting the loads up into waste and recyclables. So, and
Well,
that's
see, that
what
was
it's all about.
That was
Because
working for me at Meningie, so.
But if you pay your $60 for your trailer load, you're not going to worry about sorting it out in the waste, because you still pay for, and you still pay nowadays for, if you took a trailer load of recycled, then you pay recyclables.
No, I only paid for the equivalent of a 6x4 because that's the way I segregated my load.
You're doing very well. So, okay, any other comments?
But worth a workshop, yeah.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Now, next one is notice of motion from Councillor Roundtree.
So, Mr Chairman, I'll actually declare an actual conflict of interest with this one. And I have assessed the situation, feel that the ratepayers will not be adversely affected by my staying in the room and or debating or voting on this matter.
I'll ask for a mover for that motion.
I'm the mover.
Move, Councillor Roundtree, seconded, Councillor Coleman. What I'll do with this, I'll go around the room and ask anybody if they've got any comment to make. They'll get one whack at it, that's it. Okay, so I'll start off with Councillor Lang. Have you got any comment to make on the motion?
No?
Inch.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there behind the black.
Hiding behind that black
Councillor
mask.
Yench.
No comment, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Lang.
No.
Councillor Bland.
And my only question is, are you actually seeing us speaking for or against the motion in this comment?
Oh, I can't hear you with that mask on.
Are you, your comment, asking us for a comment, are you seeing us as speaking for or against a motion?
I am asking with the comments on the motion. Now is your opportunity to speak for or against it.
Okay, then I will reserve it at the end of the room, thank you. I'll reserve my comments to the end.
You can take your mask off, I can't hear you.
No, I will not take my mask off. What I'm saying is that I don't necessarily want to go in order. I'm happy to wait.
Can't hear a word. Well, you won't be at the end, councillor, because the mover of the motion. What I'd like to do is go around the room and give everybody the opportunity, one opportunity.
And I reserve my right to do that towards the end.
Councillor Hill,
I have no comment.
Councillor Taylor,
I'll be supporting the motion to rescind. I can't, for the life of me, see how this motion benefits the community and the ratepayers. All I see is an attempt to bring the council into disrepute. And more importantly, Mayor Simmons' reputation as mayor by suggesting he did not follow procedure. The legal advice we have received clearly supports Mayor Simmons' actions. There are also disputable words contained within the motion which are unproven. Those words include aggressive bullying and an attempt to, or through suggestion, that the 6 people who stood under the banner of team, that their actions were were not, were to be called into question without actually naming which of the 6 members of the team were the aggressive bullies. So that's effectively drawn in 6 members of this council. So if this council's serious about working for the ratepayers and not costing yet more money on legal expenses, it's my position that the option which is open to us is to rescind it, and I support the rescind.
Now, councillor Bland.
Thank you, and I will make a comment on that, and that is that, to my knowledge, the Mayor has not yet dealt with the issue that brought this motion forward, the previous motion forward and this one. And so in saying that, I am concerned that we are dealing with an issue that the Mayor still has not dealt with and will not have to deal with if this motion goes forward.
I don't know if I should make a comment or not, but
Cannot
probably
lead
can.
from the chair.
I'd just like to make a comment that this went to an independent umpire, as to say. The Mayor was exonerated of all charges, and as some of them are older members that have been elected members for some time should realise what the Act says. And the Act, under the Local Government Act, there's lots of things you can't do, which you would do in normal life. And one of the things is you can't tell people to do things. You can only ask them to do things. So I believe the report exonerated the Mayor and he did everything right. That's all I've got to say. Councillor Coleman as the seconder.
Yeah, and yes,
Point of order. The person moving the motion and seconding the motion is required by meeting procedure regulations to speak to the motion at the time,
Wrong.
not at the close. Thank you.
They can speak at the start and the finish.
No.
Read.
Councillor Coleman.
Read the regulations. They must speak at the time.
They can only address the question.
Our procedure has changed that, and they have.
No, it has not.
No, talking about our procedure.
Mr. Ling,
Our code
Mr.
reads
Ling,
exactly
will you
the same
please-
thing.
will you please be quiet? The decision has been made by the person who knows about these things.
We'll take it
Councillor
further.
Coleman, up to you, sir.
Thank you. As Councillor Taylor mentioned, and I'm going by the legal report and about our performance of our Mayor, that he conducted himself appropriately, and that's why I'm supporting it. And it's all out there for the public to see, so that's why I'm seconding it. Thank you.
Councillor Roundtree?
Thank you very
Just a
much.
reminder.
Yes, in closing. So what was this motion really about? Why was the Mayor not afforded procedural fairness? The previous Mayor, who declared he is experienced in these matters, did not consider, before moving this motion without notice, that he was indeed robbing Mayor Simmons of an opportunity to respond. This was manifestly unfair. The fact that local and state media picked up the story so quickly did nothing to enhance the reputation of council. The Mayor was not the only person not afforded procedural fairness, neither was Councillor Taylor or myself. We were accused of being bullies and of harassment, yet no codes of conduct were received by the Mayor, and there were no opportunities to defend ourselves before that damaging motion was put. The need to spend money on seeking legal advice on this matter and to consider and receive that report on the 12th of April was not due to a lack of an apology that Councillor Yench determined was owed. It was due to procedures not being followed and an opportunity that presented itself. Nonetheless, the unwarranted and unfair motion was put and voted on. We have now received a report from the lawyers saying that the Mayor did nothing wrong in his handling of the previous Code of Conduct complaints brought against Councillors Taylor, Arthur and myself, and that there was no official complaint about bullying. I would ask that those councillors who might be tempted to vote against the motion to seriously consider what message that would send to ratepayers of this district. You've all seen the report, unanimously accepted the report, And now it is time to remove this motion from the book. And with that, I'll close debate.
Thank you. Councillor Lang, once the seconder is identified, the chair will invite the mover of the motion to speak to the motion. The mover of the motion can speak at this time or reserve the right to speak later. The seconder may reserve his right to speak to the motion at the time of seconding.
Where you're reading
Once the
it.
motion has been moved and seconded, balanced debate should ensure. The mayor or chairperson may ask if there are any other members who wish to speak for or against the motion. If there's none, then the motion will be put to the vote. Thank you. I'll now put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Voting for, that's interesting, is Roundtree, Wildman, Taylor and Arthur. Voting against the motion is Yench, Lang, Bland and Hill.
Through you, Mayor, can I call a division, please?
You've already got the division.
I think we need to just do
Okay.
it again. So
Okay.
I'd like to call
Call
a
a
division
division.
under section 410.
Who stands up? Those for or those against?
Or,
Okay. All those in favour of, called. Councillor Roundtree has called for a division and all those voting for it, stand up. So it's Councillor Roundtree, Taylor, Bowman and Arthur. Those voting against are Councillor Hill, Bland, Lang and Yench. The motion is lost. Tied. Okay.
Through you, Chair, what happens with the tied motion now?
So through you, Chair, with the tied motion, no, it's not lost, it's just tied, and it just sits there basically. You can bring it back as a motion without notice in the same, remember Tracy's advice last week, you can bring it back in the same meeting, you can bring it back at another meeting, or you can just let it sit.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is another motion from Councillor Roundtree.
Yes, with this one, I'm going to move to withdraw it at this moment. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Roundtree has asked that motion be withdrawn. Right, any motions without notice? Councillor Bland?
thank you, Mr Chairman. Yes, I would like to move a motion that all matters and documents pertaining to motion 7.1.2 be released from confidence and released to the public for transparency, including but not limited to related emails and the amended Kelledy-Jones point-in-time desktop review, which was presented and amended at the special meeting on the 12th of February.
Through you,
We'll wait till
Chair.
we get it up there.
Ash?
Would you like it, Ashley?
Sorry, I just want to make a comment through the chair. The Kelledy-Jones report has already been placed on the website in the public forum.
The amended? Thank you.
Councillor, seeing it's done.
Not the emails.
Yes, I do. You can exclude and the amended Kelledy-Jones point-in-time desk review.
Wait till we get the wording right here. Thank you.
Meantime, Mr Mayor, can you point me to what you read out about the motion, please?
It's
The previous one? What clause?
Regulation 21, page 16 of 35.
Sorry, regulation?
Regulation 21, page 16 of 35.
Yeah, I think that probably then takes out the rest of the...
12.21, councillor.
12.21.
Just through you, Mayor, I just asked the question about the emails that actually came from Callity Jones. They would have been provided as part of legal advice. We will need to ask her. We don't know if there's an issue or not, but we need to find out that the emails themselves, whether they form part of her report or whether she needs to give us permission to release them.
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, I'm actually not referring to those emails because I wasn't aware you'd received many. It was in fact in relation to Councillor Hill, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Roundtree's emails, with the exclusion of emails being, as Councillor Lang never received them in relation to this issue. Thank you.
Okay. So now that Councillor Lang has those emails, is it still your request to release them?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, I've got to move it. Have we got a seconder?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Yancey's rise.
Chair.
Acting Chair. I'm happy to speak now. And
Speak now.
yes, look, I think it's imperative from the point of view of clarity for the community so that people clearly understand what has brought this on, and therefore no documentation, if possible, should be kept in confidence. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Acting Mayor, I have not yet spoken to my motion and reserve the right to answer questions at the end, or answer should I choose. So through you, the ratepayers expect transparency, and yet they are only receiving part information. The issues having been discussed on YouTube at the last special meeting on the 12th of the 4th, 2022. This meeting was not in confidence. This has caused a number of ratepayers to ask for further details. Some of this information remains in confidence and should be released. FOI requests will cost council staff time and money, and some ratepayers may, of course, receive that information for nothing. Councillors, please release all confidential documents to ensure transparency in relation to this motion. Thank you.
Can I just ask the CEO the question? These documents have been put out on the website? No, Thursday or Friday? No, it couldn't have been Friday, could it? Last week, because the minutes were out, but that document wasn't.
So there's two documents that Councillor Bland's talking about, Chair. One is the actual report from the lawyers, and then there was an amended report, so both of them are up on the website. And then the other request is around the 3 emails that form part of the discussion and started the process, and they have not been released into the public.
Right. Councillor Roundtree.
I have no issue with the emails that were sent from myself being released. I think that the email that Councillor Hill sent, which includes the names of ratepayers that are not involved in this situation, ought to be redacted, blocked out. I'm happy for my information to be shared. I've got nothing to hide. But I do think the names of the other people that are going to be dragged into this because of the select pieces of text that were chosen to be included in the email ought to be redacted for their protection.
That is not part of this motion, though.
I'm suggesting it be part of this motion.
Through you, Chair, we would need to seek some legal advice about
Is
how
this
you
will open
redact
Yeah.
as part of the motion. So it's complicated, but we really would, to make sure that all councillors are treated fairly in a sense, we need to know whether we can redact anything at all.
Can this issue lay on the table till we get this advice? Because we do not need to make a situation worse and cause more cost.
Up to the way you vote. Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Chair. So yet again, we are seeking legal advice and bringing the reputation of this council down yet again. I couldn't care less whether the emails are released or not, actually, but there are names in there of members of the public which should not be released. Just, how can you, the emails, the content of the emails is from pre-election. Let's make it clear. From around about the caretaker period, 2018. Nothing at all to do with this council. Nothing at all to do with the previous council. Therefore, releasing the names of members of the public, I'm not sure about where our duty of care sits there regarding members of the public and their names. So all this motion does is bring on more costs for the ratepayers of engaging lawyers.
Councillor Hill?
Question. The previous motion said that the accusations of bullying were unproven. They've never been tested, so I can see why Councillor Bland has put this motion forward. Blocking out the public, people of the public's name wouldn't be a problem, I don't think. The example that I put on that email was a bit of a reminder that the trouble within the council has not all been one-sided. It has always been focused on Councillor Leng, and I wanted to remind people that there has been animosity towards Councillor Leng right from the day one of the election. So I put an example of what had been transpiring. Yes, it was pre-election, but it was part of, I mean, we keep getting told that this is banter. It hasn't been banter. It has been targeted sort of enmity towards people. And so that's why I put it in the email. But I think it should be up to the public to decide whether perhaps there's been harassment and derogatory comments was my main point. I said there was derogatory comments and bullying. Yeah, I didn't say aggressive. Part of a different motion, I think. But anyway, I will now declare an interest and I will not be voting on this.
Councillor Earnshaw, you've already had your say. Anybody else? Councillor Ling?
No.
Councillor Inch?
No.
I'll just make one comment. That once again, this is going to cost the council more money. Well, I was hoping we could be more adult about this and get it all finished because it's out there in the open. It was one of those things I think that probably people got carried away with the thing, and it's obviously that what we've done, what the Mayor has done in this case is right and has been exonerated by that report. The other thing is that, as I said before at the opening, there are certain things under the Local Government Act you must do, and if you have a complaint, you put in a code of conduct complaint. And that's how what any of this should have been handled in the first time, and some of the senior elected members probably should have pointed that out.
Through the chair.
So,
I was hoping to avoid a code of conduct and further cost to the council. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. It's now turned into this. So I probably should have sought more advice before that happened. But the Mayor did, at the previous meeting, he did accept the question without notice, and he didn't necessarily have to do that. So the Mayor probably, may have led to the events as well. So I'm
okay.
yeah, anyway.
Councillor Bland, you can close the debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, but I would like to wait till my motion has been changed before I respond, because it is changing dramatically.
Through you, Chair, can I have a procedural question?
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Just,
Point of order.
what are we
Excuse me.
changing?
So what we're trying to do is put some clarity around which documents actually you're requesting, and my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Bland, is the 3 emails in Councillor Roundtree, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Hill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we've taken out that all matters and documents because, as you would appreciate, there have been email exchanges between us and the lawyers as we drafted that report. So that's just part of normal business rather than phone calls now.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware there had been many emails, and I appreciate that coming out.
So are you happy with the motion, how it reads now?
I'm just reading the last bit in relation to the manner.
Yep. Councillor Jens, you,
Point of further clarification, the emails in question are all related to the dates of the 28th and the 31st of January only.
Two.
Yeah, but there's, whatever emails occurred at on those 2 days, they are the ones.
Sorry,
the motion says.
sorry, it's a span of dates, not and so it's between those 2 dates, and there's 3 emails.
A question, in that case, through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, to the CEO, I do not want inclusive of any other emails from councillors in that time, only the 3 emails in relation to Councillor Hill, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Roundtree. And I'm not sure that that is as precise if we're going...
There's 4.
Or there's the one
Well,
on
it
the
was the one that
28th.
I sent originally, based
Sorry,
on
then the 4 emails,
workshop that we
apologies.
had.
Sorry, yes, correct.
The 4 emails between the 3 councillors.
That's it, yes.
We want to get this right.
I am working on that. Thank you, Mr
question.
Mayor, and if I might, I am happy for the protection of the members of the public to be inclusive in that.
So am I correct, Councillor Bland, that you don't want that last caveat on it?
In relation to the members of the public? No, I am happy with that to be included. There was no intent to, at any point, include members of the public unnecessarily.
I'm happy for that addition, Mr Acting Deputy.
Thank you.
And if I might, in closing,
I'm just trying to work this out. 712 is the revocation of the motion. Revocation of the vote of confidence in the mayor.
as it should be.
So it's
Well,
just
unfortunately,
relevant.
with councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, I apologise and because I had actually 3, and
713 has been withdrawn.
as one has been part of my motion that I put forward was in relation to all of both documents. So as part of it has been removed by councillor Roundtree, I am actually speaking only to one part of the motion now.
Can I, probably I'll be completely out of order here, but I'm going to try. Okay?
Mr Acting,
You can
you
tell me
cannot
if I'm wrong.
lead.
I'd
Point of
like
order,
to,
you cannot lead.
I would particularly like to ask the 3 councillors mentioned in this motion, are they happy for those emails to be released?
Did that.
Are you asking us 3?
Yes. Are you happy for them to be released?
So long as, well, I have 2 caveats, and one of them was my question, the legal advice around removing the names. So as long as
That's what
they're
I'm trying
clear,
to get, is
If
that
the
if you
names of the
3 give
public-
the okay to release them, we probably don't have money on legal fees.
then so long as the names of the people that aren't included in this are redacted.
And it says protects the names of the members.
The only thing I would say is that the portion of emails that will be included are out of context, and I don't know how we would provide context without making a bigger can of worms. So unfortunately, they're going to be read out of context to the things that happened either side of that little piece of information. What it achieves, I don't know, but if everyone's happy to do it, I have no issue with releasing my part if they're redacted.
Councillor Hill, Councillor Taylor, have you?
No,
Any-
I've already said I really couldn't care less
Okay.
whether they're released.
Councillor Hill?
However, Chair,
Yeah, I'll come back to you.
however-
Councillor Hill, any
Oh,
problems
she
with that?
hasn't finished. She hasn't finished.
however,
Yeah, I said I'll come back. I'll just try to.
I haven't finished it yet, so I have no issue with it being released, except I would like to see it before it is released because there are a couple of names in there which are not immediately obvious. So it's in a sentence or it's in a paragraph, and they are names of members of the public. So I just want to double check that all of those names have been redacted before the emails are released.
Well, it says in the motion, so I think we've got confidence in the CEO to make sure that happens. And
Through you, Chair, but I'm more than happy to email out of session the emails in their redacted state.
Thank you.
Councillor Hill, you,
Happy for them to be.
okay. Right,
Now may I close?
now,
Thank you.
all under control here now, Sharon, Councillor Bland, sorry.
Thank you. Look, I think I agree that this council, in this term, has spent a lot of money on legal fees, and I'm more than happy not to see us going down that track. It has been extensive and unfortunate, and it's cost ratepayers a lot of money. So I'm more than happy to see that out. There is no intent to harm any member of public, but to show a level of transparency that in the special meeting, we all chose to go out of confidence, and in doing so was only able to release one part, which is now up on the website. The other components of the meeting, as discussed in parts of that meeting, also need to go out to the public, hence the motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor, I close.
I'll close the debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Voting for is Yench, Ling, Land, Roundtree, Coleman and Arthur, and voting against is Councillor Taylor, with the abstaining by Councillor Hill. Right, let's get on to the next one, the Murray River Lakes and Kurong.
Are we still in motions without notice?
Have you got another one, have you?
I do.
Okay, sorry.
Mr Mayor, given that we have just discussed the cost of legal issues, I would move that a report be presented to council on the full legal costs in this term of council under headings appropriate to the issue. I'm not specifically, and if I might speak to it initially, I'm not specifically looking for issues related or names of people that it's related to. It may in fact relate to staff. It may in fact relate to councillors. It may in fact relate to legal issues or concerns around infrastructure. But I would like a full legal costing of the amount we have spent on legal issues, whether it be advice, whether it be any other form of legal responsibility.
Can you just tissy that motion up so we can look at it?
So through you, Mayor, can I ask that that be for the July meeting, given the budget considerations of staff over the next 2 months, that would be quite an onerous task to pull that level of detail.
And through you, Mr Mayor, I'm more than happy for it to go into the next quarter in relation to the legal issues. I'm aware, unfortunately, that it is going to take some time, and I would be more than happy to see that report come in. I also think it's a level of transparency. This council has cost a significant amount of money in its term around issues related to legal costs and advice.
Can I just verify what the report previously to council on all legal costs incurred in the current 2018-22 season? So that's costs us with planning and all the other costs. Okay. And you don't want it split up?
No, my request was for it to be split under major headings, not necessarily to the nth degree. So if it's planning, it is planning. If there is a specific issue around planning, strategic planning, whatever, then yes.
And we'll leave the major headings for the CEO to...
Correct. I'm happy to liaise with the CEO if necessary. And through you, Mayor, might just finish, some legal costs are business as usual. I accept that.
Okay? You happy with that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Seconder, councillor Yench.
Yes.
Is there any discussion? Roundtree?
So what's the aim of this one? Just to have a look and see what we're spending? Is that what the aim is? Or is it the aim to level blame, or I'm not quite sure what the aim of this is other than cause more work. But anyway, it will be interesting.
Are you asking me to answer that? The aim of my motion, and I'm not sure I need to answer that, but I will, the aim of my motion is straight transparency.
Okay.
The ratepayers have a right to know under what major headings we have spent money on legal issues.
May I suggest that you've got all legal costs. There also should be a cost of the staff's proportion of work to investigate these claims. If I remember rightly, when Dave Moselle was doing one, like it was something like 14 hours work at probably $70 an hour.
Through you, if I might, I'd be more than happy for that to be included. However, I do not want to extend the staff time out any more than that they should be able to pull out of the accounts.
Agreed.
And unfortunately, again, we have utilised staff extensively looking at this information. I agree with you totally. We have utilised staff's time extensively, chasing legal issues.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Coleman?
Mr Chair, yes, I support this motion, and people, ratepayers, constituents, you want to call them, people who live in the Kurong, asking me quite often, numerous times, all this money going into legal fees. And I totally support transparency within the council, not only for this reason, but everything we do. So that's why I'm supporting it. Let's have the figures. That'll be interesting.
Anyone else like to make a comment? Councillor Yench?
Thank you. In seconding this, Mr Acting, I believe it's all about transparency and accountability. Like Councillor Cormann, I have had considerable debate with various people over the last few years over certain aspects of spending, this being one of the primary ones that concerns them because they are unable to get a handle on it. This will hopefully enable them to do that.
I'll just make one quick comment. I will vote for the motion, but I would hope it would have shown a little bit more depth of where the actual expenditure incurred. But okay, without that.
Mr Mayor, I totally concur with your comment. However, I am conscious of staff time, but should they choose to break it down into some subheadings that will make it clearer, I am more than happy with that.
The motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Now, Councillor Ben, have you got any more notices of that motion?
I think I've done well, thank you.
That's enough for the day? Okay, no one else this time? Okay, we'll get on to the Murray River Lakes and Kurong Tourist Alliance. I think it's pretty straightforward there. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Hill, Councillor Bland. Is there any discussion on this? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next one is the community grants. Now, I will declare a conflict of interest in this because I am the community representative on the Torah committee and also the chair of that committee. So I will leave and I'll ask someone to take the chair. Who would like to take? Councillor Coleman, you're the closest.
Councillor Cormann would be an ideal choice.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coleman.
Well,
I don't bite, councillor Kwame.
Okay. Community Grants Run 2. We still see the recommendation. Do we have a mover? Councillor Band?
I would like to amend, I would like to move an alternative motion. That in accordance with the community policy and procedure, we approve funding up to 17,000, being the first 4 recommended ones, that is Coomanduk Community Gym, $5,000, Hale and Bend Football Club, $5,000, Hale and Bend Community Centre, $5,000, and the Lions Club of Kintanara. My understanding, if I'm correct from the briefing we had, was that the others did not meet the full criteria.
That's correct.
So
Councillor Jens.
move the $17,000.
Councillor Jens is taking it.
Yes.
Do we have any discussion on it? Councillor Roundtree?
Not entirely sure if we've got the money to do it, why we wouldn't include.
At 18,000.
Yeah, so we had 18,000. Like, why are we just deciding not to include 2 when we've got the funds to do it?
Can I answer that, help you with that? Chair?
Fiscal responsibility.
Can I help you with that?
Yeah.
So through you, Chair. The balance of the 50,000 that we allocate in the budget process for the community grants is around 18,000. So the last 2 would require us to do a budget change in budget review 3. So it's not like we have funds now, we would have to actually allocate some new budget to it.
Oh, okay, I thought because it got included in the recommendation, that we were somehow going to do something different. Yeah, it does
No,
say
it's
that.
that last bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Close. In closing, it is that the only reason I don't include or recommend a budget variation for this one, A, it would be a budget variation, but B, they don't meet the criteria that was set at the time. And if we are going to go outside policy, at this point in time, then at some point, we adjust the policy or we remain within policy.
Are you closing the debate?
And I'm closing debate.
Okay, all those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried.
Bring the deputy back in.
Please. Matt, can you just ask?
I can get a coffee while I'm at it.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Well, Chair.
Oh, thank you. Coming back, councillor.
Right, the next item is the South Australian Coastal Councils Alliance, a membership of that. There is a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that way?
Yeah.
Councillor Jensch. Councillor Roundtree is seconded. Is there any discussion?
No.
I will make a comment here. I went to their meeting in Adelaide some 6 or 7 months ago, and they're very progressive. A lot of put a very good resume of what's needed up to the government. It is quite a substantial amount of money with some of the coastal areas, and we have been included in it, so that's all I've got to say. I'll move,
I'd like to comment on closing, please.
it's okay, councillor Ince, away you go.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I totally agree with this. This is something that we have to be very active and strategic with. The fact that we have so much on the Kurong and the lakes to lose, at times many of the bureaucrats do not see us as relevant because we looked at more as an inland council. So it is for the benefit of our communities that we be active and on the forefront with this, with the changes. Thank you.
Question?
Just closed.
Opposed?
Sorry, we were never given the opportunity.
Well, I was.
You talk to it.
Vote's closed by the mover. I'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Yep, sorry.
Against? Carried. The next one is the Canalpin Library relocation. Recommendation that we receive that. Move councillor Roundtree, second councillor Bland. Just wonder if the CEO just gives a little bit more of a rundown on this.
So as you know, the school library and the school has closed in Canalpin. And so we've worked with the Canalpin Hub to find a alternate location. They have a perfect room for us. And so we've had one meeting with them and they've taken it to their board and they're quite happy to see the library services operate out of the hub. We have a meeting, I think, either the end of this week or early next week to work out any finer details with them, but they're more than happy to have us as library in residence at that. And it's a perfect position in terms of, I think, the cohort that use the library services, particularly older people who also come to the hub for other reasons. So I think it probably offers a little bit more opportunity for what we do with the library services, having it outside the school system.
Councillor Hill?
Question to the CEO. Is there room in the hub? Because last time I went there, it's not a great big area to have a library.
They have a room, as you walk in, I'll use my hands, you go past the reception area, it's on the left. They currently use it as a storage room, but it's ample size. The librarian has a look at it, we've had a look at it, and it will work, and they're happy to clear it out. And also for staff to use a back area where they have some office space set up as well, so.
That was going to be my question. It is a very dingy little place.
We'll make it beautiful, councillor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lang?
Could we have an explanation of how it works? Obviously, we're not going to fill it with books, so how does it work?
No, we do fill it with books. So the books actually come from Tintinara. So there's been a relationship with Tintinara for many, many years, and the library resources come from there, and they're turned over on a regular basis or as need be. And so those books, there are books in the library. It's actually a book library.
And there's a catalogue made of available of books that are also in Tinti, or?
I'm not sure how that works, councillor, but it's been working okay for the last how many years as it's situated in the Canalpin hub, and there's nobody in the room who can help me with the answer to that one. But it works fine. How they're advertised, I'm not too sure.
Online.
Online at the school.
Yeah, and most of the, and all the 4 libraries that we've got have got a system that every term they get a great heap of books together and they rotate them around. And you're always, particularly with, you can order online now and they will be delivered and you can pick them up at your library. So, yeah, but all the magazines and all that sort of thing come to Tiddy and then distributed to Canalpin. Councillor Bland, you had a question?
No, I was just going to, the comment was that a lot of stuff is ordered online and can be picked up, and that, as you said, across all libraries.
Right, if no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Unanimously. Right, the next one is the Council's Members' Allowances, Benefits and Support Policy Review. The Council adopt the recommendation. So someone would like to move that way? Councillor Roundtree and Councillor Hill. Is there any discussion? There should be discussion on one portion of the, which is the, what do we call it, phone data plans?
Yep, what page are you
No
on?
one?
30.
30? You're on the motion. Yeah. Someone
Question.
have a look at that, yeah.
When it says a person who is substantially financially dependent on the member, this is in terms of being able to claim them as a dependent. What does substantially represent? And at some point, when I'm older and my husband's going to keep me in the lifestyle I want to become accustomed to, I will be financially dependent. So would that, or he, or vice versa. So what does that actually mean?
You're talking about the carers component?
Yeah, the carers component, so I should have been clear on that, yeah.
Yeah. It's again one of those areas where there's an opportunity. Generally, it applies to children. So if you have children in your care and you need to pay for costs to come to council meetings, but there are also occasions where you may be caring for an elderly person, where it's just not possible for you to turn up at the drop of a hat. So it's discretionary whichever way you look at it, and every case would be different, that you would look at it individually. I don't think you would give a definition of what that actually meant.
So I noticed, just following on from that, then I noticed that it goes on to talk about having to present an invoice of having had a paid carer come and attend the house or attend the area at that time, and that was, I think, 0.5 of the policy statement, 0.3 sort of covered it. So I think as I read through it, there were areas where it was more specific.
Yep.
And, in Section 8, under mandatory reimbursements, it goes on to talk about claim form 1 and the need to present information there. So I think overall I'm very happy to see that alcohol and in-room dining and minibar expenses were going to be removed as being covered. I think that's a big step forward. And the rest of it I thought was actually quite well done, and probably wasn't a big change from the last one, but I thought it was good.
It's just, I can't find it. I found it yesterday. Regarding the phone and data plans, which is $1,000 a year at the present moment.
Removed.
It was to be, I
500.
think it was the view of this council, it probably should be reviewed. And it probably should be, well, I'll make a comment. When we first started on council, we used to have to produce a copy of our phone and all the phone bills, because the system's a lot different now. Because I lived in 087, every time I made a phone call to Culburra, it was a trunk call. So I'd have a list of something like this and you had to go through. And that's virtually around about the time that they decided, instead of doing that, we'll work an allowance. And probably since then, the phones have changed completely different, you know. So maybe it is the time now to change that to $500 a year, paid in.
It's on page 12, I just gave you.
Page 12, is it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So that is in there at 500. Paid in arrears. Because up the front it says you'll pay it up in advance, and then if they leave, you'll get it back off them. Might be good luck in doing that.
It would cost us more than
Up
$500
there.
to chase it.
That's, yeah. So,
Did you want something changed there?
Excuse me.
so this is until the current council. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Chair. With the proposal to reduce the cost that you're talking about, has this been analysed efficiently, or is it just an unsubstantiated statement by somebody that we're making this recommendation? Has it been substantiated with an analysis?
Through you, Chair, I think the comments that the Chair's made about how telephones and data are charged now, we've based it on, we've had a look at internally how data is charged to mobile phones and also to call rates. And so they have come down significantly in the last couple of years. And in fact, most people don't pay for much data at all anymore.
Councillor Bland?
Yes, I actually support this motion with the change down, and probably been around long enough to have had to have a second fax line put into my house in the early days, and 5,000 pages printed off the next morning. So that doesn't happen now, so there's a whole range of issues that have changed over this period of time, so I support this.
It's just that the motion has in here that they still be fixed at $1,000.
For this term.
The allowance will apply to the incoming council of $500. So if we pass this motion, we're actually reducing it by $500.
Yes.
Okay, as long as that's clear to everybody. Okay, any further debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Section 41, the Murray Lands and Riverland Local Government Association. Someone like to move the recommendation about the minutes? Councillor Hill, second Councillor Qualman. Are there any comments or questions about that report? Always a very, very good report, isn't it? And very thick.
They're very good, Councillor Bland.
Councillor Bland.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just confirm that the next meeting is to be held in Manham? Is that correct?
Has been changed, yes, to Manham.
Yes, that's correct. In May?
Yep,
May 6th.
Yes.
about the 5th or 6th.
Yes,
Yes,
May 6th in Manham, change from Corinda.
correct.
that is correct. Any further? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. The next one is Japanese encephalitis update. Someone like to move to receive that report? Councillor Bland, Councillor Lang.
Through you, might I ask that our Director, Mr Summers, actually speak to this report and give us any further updates?
Certainly.
Thank you, Chair. Things move fairly quickly in this space, so the information I gave you was what was available to me a couple of weeks ago. I will let you know that there has been results of the Meningi sentinel chicken bleeds February, and these results have only just come through. And talking to SA Health this morning, they advised me I'm allowed to tell you that Japanese encephalitis was detected in the flock. We do expect it's an old infection. As I said, the results came through in February, so likely the infection was earlier than that. And this isn't a surprise. I mean, we actually expected this. There hasn't been any Japanese encephalitis detected in traps right up to the last result that actually came through whilst we're having this meeting, which I just checked. So, but it's a fact. We've got it in. We've seen that it's in the piggeries in Murray Bridge and Tail and Bend, and in a couple of piggeries, and further north. So SA Health, bringing together as much data as possible, including, and what I spoke to SA Health about this morning, with all of their previous trapping and monitoring, they weren't looking for Japanese encephalitis. So what they actually do now is they go back to all of their samples that they've kept, and they have laboratories in New South Wales checking all of those to determine whether there's anything historic that might show up. But all in all, we can't do anything much more than we're doing right now. The season itself is coming to an end, if it's not already ended with the weather that we've had over the last few days. The last trapping occurred last week. What we do now is we start preparing for the next season. And that's probably what I want to signal with council, that we, need to learn from what's happened over the last couple of months and collaboratively with SA Health and the other councils to start preparing ourselves for the next season. Again, the best protection against any of these diseases is not to get bitten by mosquitoes. So it is, a very traditional public health program. And the other part of that, of course, is vaccinations for any vulnerable parties and their people. Potentially at the moment, it's essentially people working in piggeries, and it is any of our people associated with the trapping program. But we'll see whether the government changes that in the next month or two and whether they extend that vulnerable person's recommendation. But at the moment, they're the only ones that they're recommending get the vaccination. So happy to answer any other questions, and we'll give this will be a key environmental issue. It's a matter of national significance. There's only 2 at the moment. It's this and COVID. It's high on everyone's agenda.
I guess through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Summers, in that, do we have adequate resources for you to be able to prepare for the next season from the point of view, particularly financial resources, but also equipment that may be needed by outside staff, etc., in providing a safe environment for them?
Thanks for the question. To the Chair, money channeled through to SA Health. And again, talking to SA Health this morning, that'll be a conversation that all of the Riverland and Murrayland councils will be having with SA Health. What additional resources might we require? How does that, at the moment we get 50% of our costs reimbursed by SA Health, and that includes labour costs as well, but there is a cap on that. When you have an emergency like this, they increase that cap. Start looking at what council's requirements are, and I would hope that that whole funding model is reviewed in light of Japanese encephalitis. But also, again, we don't know what level of a problem we have and whether this is something that might become endemic, or whether it is something that may actually not occur again. So SA Health aren't sure until they do all the investigations and modelling again over the next season, which is probably around about late September, the season starts. To start then, they'll do, as soon as the mosquito trapping occurs in September, they'll start testing for Japanese encephalitis, knowing that, again, they didn't start this until, I think it was might have been the January trapping that was the first ones that started looking for JEV.
Councillor Lang.
Now, I'm just wondering what SA Health did previously with the West Nile encephalitis, or Kurong. It was already down at Meningie 2 or 3 years ago, along with Ross River virus. They've done nothing. We've done nothing. I'm just wondering, I know it's not part of this motion, but I think our council should be a little bit more proactive perhaps in considering particular plants like lavender that repel the mosquitoes from various areas. We could be putting them in gardens and...
I would think something like that, we can only go on SA Health, the experts' opinions.
All they're interested in is vaccinations and spraying.
I will say that it was 2 years ago that Kurong was picked up in the Meningie flock, sentinel flock, chicken flock again, and that triggered a higher level alert within SA Health, and they're actually quite well prepared. Necessary public health response. I think again, the sentinel chickens are a really important part of this, because there's a situation, and they're managed by SA Health. There's a situation where all the trapping that's occurred hasn't picked up any viruses, but we've had and 2 occasions the virus is picked up through the sentinel chickens. So I actually don't agree with you. I think they're doing a good job. They are also resource constrained, and hence this is why the national significance has been triggered and you have the federal money coming through. I think the next season will look quite different in terms of the amount of information, the type of resources that will be put towards managing risks, and it's public health risks. So generally it's about where are the mosquitoes occurring, what are the viruses that are being picked up, and where are the human populations, whether permanent or visitors. That really is the focus. And that's why I concentrate on things like Kurong campground. To me, that's a risk. Meningi. To me, yes, and maybe we need to do more.
The bird-eyed area, right alongside the school.
But I think we need to deal with science and we need to deal with expert advice from SA Health. And maybe it is that councils, in the Riverland and the Murraylands may have to provide more services and support. It's quite possible. I'm sure that a council in, say, like a place like Queensland, in this area looks quite different to a council in South Australia that hasn't had that level of a concern and public health risk.
I'm closed.
Debate closed. Councillor Bland?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next one is a petition. Isn't it? Did I skip one? Oh, yeah, sorry. Status of the Sherlock Cemetery. I know someone will be very happy about that. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Yench, Councillor Qualman. Would you like to have anything to say about it,
Yes.
Councillor Yench?
Thank you. I think this is worthwhile. The community have an expectation that we need to meet, and this is doing so. It's important to have family come home. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Qualman?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. With Councillor Yench. Yes, it's good that community facilities have gone out there and done some basic maintenance work and posts and trimmed up trees and a bit of a clean up, and that is now the cemetery is coming operational or viewed as operational, and on our books is open. And I'm just wondering if the CEO or council, I know with this minutes goes out to the public, but will be something information about it being operational again for the local residents to know about, please.
We can do that. They'll come out in the council minutes as well, councillor, but I don't think we'll do a specific advertisement if that's what you're asking.
Well, you know what I mean. Thank you.
Yeah, Monty Python skit.
Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
To Chair, for this next bit, because I'm I'm leaving the room.
You've got two councillors and...
Yeah, Mr Chairman, I have to declare an interest too.
I'll move.
Do we just move? We accept that petition. Okay. Move Councillor Yench. Second Councillor Bland. Okay. We'll put that recommendation. Let it be accepted. All those in favour?
I'd just like to say something first, please, Mr Mayor, acting. I'm aware that the young people in the community are working very hard for this project, and I think it's very worthwhile. Yeah.
I have a question too.
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
question.
hang on,
as well.
right, we've got a question. Sorry.
I'd like to know how many of those names are young people?
Or parents of?
To you, Chair, the petition is just for receiving and noting. It's not for debate.
Okay.
And we don't know, we could go and do a count, but it's not for debate or questions because the issue is still a live one.
Just
Okay,
a
put that.
point of clarification, if I may, just for interest, I believe that it was multiple pages long, this petition. It had far more than just what is seen here.
Councillors, there's the
Is that an
physical
accusation?
pages.
I can give this to you later if you want.
So why were not all pages included? Just
Yeah.
too long?
Doesn't have to be
No,
a resident
Right,
to
okay.
sign the
Normally
petition
you
either.
don't get any.
Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Okay.
Everybody else.
Now
Councillor Bland seconded.
Councillor Blaine.
deputations. We have no deputations.
You get the council.
Sorry.
The councillors coming
All
back.
right, 136. Oh, that's great.
We have no deputations. We have any public questions? No public questions? No? With that, we'll move on to the information document then. Anybody got any comments about the information document that I'd like to direct to the director or the management, we'll say the CEO or the directors or whatever. Councillor Roundtree.
I've just got a couple, thank you, Chair. So I noticed on page 2, and this has come up before, we're still calling the Meningie Skate Park, the Kurong Community Skate Park. Has it officially been changed? And if so, I think we need to keep consistent language around what we're calling the skate park, because sometimes it's referred to as the Kurong Community Skate Park and other times it's referred to as the Meningie Skate Park. So can we have a decision on what we're actually going to call it?
For you, Chair, I think that's because that's the name of the grant, but we will come back to you with proposals for a name, but that is really just the name of the grant that we were successful for.
I also noticed that the Canal Pond Pool has been removed from the fence that needed to be changed, the heater, and all the other jobs are now completed.
Through you, Chair, the work contract has been completed. There's still some minor works, as you alluded to, that is outstanding, but that's just continual operational stuff rather than the actual specific construction contract.
So the fence has been replaced?
The fence will be replaced. There's some roller doors that we'll be putting on the, well, not roller doors, security screens on the openings to the canteen, the pool heater, and a few other minor things, but they're all programmed to be completed.
Thank you. My third question, page 6 on the Wellington East Reserve. I may have this wrong, but I thought we were going to see a revised drawing of what that reserve would look like now that we didn't have the full funding to do the original design. But then I saw that works have commenced. Was there a drawing brought back to council on that, or have I missed that?
We haven't provided that, and I'm sorry I missed that, that it was coming back to council, but we can.
Well, it may not have been through your chair, it may not have been. I just assumed it would, so it might not have been going to, but.
We will circulate that out of session. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And then my next one was, what does awaiting commencement actually mean? Sounds like a roundabout way of saying something, but I'm just not sure what.
No, it could be that a contractor has given us a date, or we're still waiting for a date from a contractor. It just means that we haven't actually started it, and there is something holding it up. And it could be that contractor hasn't provided a date, or has provided a date that's in the future. Is there anything else that would come into that category, Matt? Yep. Yep.
Okay, so we have engaged the contractor, they just haven't set a date. Excellent. And I'll just finish with, it was great to see 2,100 patrons enjoying the pool. Big credit to council, all the work they've put into getting that pool going and all the volunteers that look after this asset. And I would just give a special thank you to Sue Micking, because I think she's poured her heart and soul into the volunteering of that pool. So thank you.
Right, any more questions for the information document? If not, I'll call a 5-minute break before we go into confidence, and we'll go out of recording now. Is that the procedure? Sorry.
That's it.
Thank you for the residents that come to residents, you'll notice that, I'll use that word. So But we will have to leave now before we go into confidence for the next item. Thank you for your attendance.